She walked over, brimming with confidence, and before Dan could even finish his sentence, she picked up the carrier and started walking off.
What? Who else likes creepy stuff? I mean, I do, and I have played a few horror games on this channel, so I thought it'd be fun to do a creepy animation one. Someone suggested a YouTube channel named Stephen D, and I'd never heard of them. They do a ton of creepy story animation videos, so if you haven't gone and checked them out already, the link to the original of this is in the description below. As always, I link all my stuff like this because I like to credit the people who made them. Have you guys ever experienced something creepy that you just couldn't, I don't know, something that maybe your mind played tricks on, or maybe you think, oh, that is a little bit too weird. Suddenly there's a shadow in your room and you can't explain how it's there. Things like that. Has that ever happened to you? Let me know any of your creepy stories down below. Oh. My stalker came back 8 years later.
15 years ago, Emma had the misfortune of meeting Dave.
Oh.
She was new to riding the bus to school and didn't happen to know anyone, so she sat by herself. She could feel someone was watching her from behind, so she turned a couple times to look, and that's when she saw Dave. He had brown curly hair and turned away every time she caught him staring.
Oh, that's weird.
He told Emma she had nice hair and he liked her t-shirt. He asked right off the bat if she would be his girlfriend.
What?
Emma said absolutely not. She didn't even know him and his creepy staring made her uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, Emma had pointed him out to a few people in school and everyone she talked to said he was the nicest person they'd ever met and just a bit of an odd duck. Next thing she knows, Dave had joined her photography class and after-school programs. She saw him around every corner and in every hallway of the school. He started popping up to try and hug Emma and tickle her. When she found out he was telling people he was her boyfriend, Emma knew she needed to put her foot down.
Wait! I'm barely into this one, and I'm here like, oh no, dude, you're coming off a bit too strong. Don't do that. If a girl is like, no, don't do that. Okay, she said no. Also, girls, don't do that to a guy either. If the guy says no, just leave him be, alright? I've seen girls do it too. Don't think it's just the guys. But I would be pretty terrified if I saw him. He sounds creepy.
He kept asking for hugs, and she refused. And that's when things took a turn. Suddenly, anonymous notes were popping up in Emma's locker. Most of the notes said, always.
Always what?
And nothing else.
Huh?
Some had longer declarations of love. The simplicity of the message gave her chills, and it had to be Dave. Her suspicions were confirmed when pictures of herself began showing up along with the notes.
Nope.
The pictures were all taken from a slight distance, and she finally got scared. One Sunday afternoon, as Emma was watching TV in her bed, she heard Dave's voice next to the bedroom window.
What?
He said he watched her walk home one day to see where she lived and wanted to stop by for a visit. He said he knew she wouldn't let him in, so he figured he'd just stop by the window to talk. He quickly left, but now it got serious and adults needed to be involved.
Yeah,
Emma's
maybe.
mom thought she was exaggerating. She acknowledged the notes and pictures as weird, but nothing other than a serious infatuation. So, Emma went to Mr. K, who also had Dave as a student, and noticed some of his obsessive behavior and didn't doubt her story for a moment.
Okay,
He
good.
spoke to Dave's guidance counselor, and they both sat down with him, telling him that he was making Emma uncomfortable and to stop. This angered Dave.
Oh gosh,
He
no.
stormed up to her in the lobby of the school with a glass rose in his hand and threw it at the wall behind her. He screamed in Emma's face about how she had broken his heart just like the rose. Mr. K had to break up the situation, and a few days later, he dropped out of school and Emma went 8 years without seeing Dave.
Wow. Okay, so there's a huge gap then from originally seeing him in school to now, like, I'm guessing they're out of school now and they're more like adults and things. That is just weird. What the heck? I mean, this does happen in real life, guys. There are people that get super infatuated with just one person. It becomes almost obsessive. And if you feel like you're in that situation, I urge you to get some help. Because it's not okay if they're just showing up at your house and you haven't invited them and you haven't told them where you live, and people are just like stalking you home. And if they're telling like everyone like, oh my god, you're like my girlfriend or my boyfriend or whatever, and it's like, oh, this is getting serious. So anyway, Let's have a look what happens 8 years later. I have no clue where this is going.
Emma was craving some mac and cheese one day and hit up a popular spot in town to grab some to
Mac
go.
and cheese.
She looked behind the counter and
Oh no.
Dave.
No.
Emma had no idea he was working there and debated leaving for a moment. Middle school was so long ago and she hadn't heard from him since that day in the lobby. Surely this guy cannot still have this obsession with Emma. It was a huge relief when another register opened and a young woman took her order. She wondered if he was even mortified and didn't want to interact. Well, Dave seemed to take Emma's visit as a sign that she was ready to love him. Emma got a friend request from him that night and immediately deleted it. A few nights later, she's getting home and walking on the street when she sees that someone is standing on the side of her house. She gets into the house quickly, locks everything, and watches. And then she sees him, his curly brown hair. Emma called the police and reported this, but of course, there wasn't much they could do.
Oh,
There was
man.
no proof, and he hadn't approached her or tried to get in. They did agree to keep someone on lookout in the area, and she had police patrolling more
Okay.
than usual the following nights.
That's
But
nice.
eventually, the police patrol died down, and that's when the late night knocking began.
No!
She could hear it softly on windows and occasionally on the back door, but never dared to answer or get close enough to look. It wasn't every night, maybe 2 or 3 nights a week. The police never seemed to be close enough in the area when it happened, so they couldn't catch him.
Wow.
A couple weeks after the knocking began, Emma received an envelope wedged into the screen door, full of the creepy candid pictures from middle school and another note that said, "Always."
He kept them?
She had enough and wanted to have some official record of what was happening. And that's when Emma saw the word "always" carved into her car's back bumper.
Wait.
Emma lost it, and in her rage, she took a picture of the police station sign and the report being filed and sent them over to Dave over Facebook. And she told him to leave her alone, that the police were involved and things will only get worse if he continues. And to her surprise, he simply responded, "You're right." And just like that, he disappeared.
No
Was the
way.
mac and cheese worth it? Definitely not. And ever since that day, Emma never saw Dave again.
Oh, Emma has heard he stalked a window shortly after her husband had passed away, pounding at her windows and doors, trying to break in until she screamed out of a top window that she was calling the police. So wait, hold up. So this story carries on to even when she had a husband. The husband passed away and he was still alive and he must have kept tabs on her? What? Whoa, okay, what a story. What on earth is that? I mean, I'm actually, oh gosh, what? Oh man, yeah, that would creep me out. That would really creep me out. It's a really strong warning to be like, hey, if you've just met someone, maybe don't, tell them where you live, your full name, things like that. Safeguard it as much as possible. And in real life, sometimes things like this happen. It's not your fault, if that makes sense. Like, don't blame yourself for someone if they start doing this. If you're leading them on, then that's a different story. But if you're ignoring them and you're putting distance between you and them, that's not your fault. So make sure you go get help. So the video I'm watching currently is actually a compilation of loads of creepy stories. So I actually want to watch one more because I'm really invested in this storytelling and in being creepy. So we're gonna watch one more, I think, and see what happens in this one. My baby was taken at a supermarket parking lot. Oh gosh, this is not good.
Jen and her husband Dan were at the supermarket when their baby was being especially fussy.
Oh.
He took her for a 10-minute drive to calm her down and came back into the parking lot waiting for Jen to finish shopping for groceries. Dan was taking a business call and sat down absentmindedly rocking the baby when a woman approached them. It's not uncommon for people to ask to play with their baby. She's got big rosy cheeks, soft wisps of gold hair, and the most adorable Gersley toothless grin. But her nap schedule is paramount, so he was preparing to tell the woman she actually couldn't play with the baby right then. She walked over, brimming with confidence, and before Dan could even finish his sentence, she picked up the carrier and started walking off.
What?
Dan was in shock and said, "Excuse me, put her down." She started walking away more briskly. Dan tried to grapple the carrier out of her hands, resulting to restraining her arms. This woman yells, "Help! He's trying to take my baby!
No.
Kidnapping! 911! Help!" kicking him in the shin and pulling a pink bottle of pepper spray out of her handbag. Unsurprisingly, no one in the parking lot was clocking the earlier interaction and assumed he was really a kidnapper. Immediately, a man knocked Dan to the ground and was holding him down, telling him that the police was being called. He was telling everyone in the parking lot it's his daughter, but no one was listening. "I have pictures of the baby on my phone." This, however, didn't translate well.
Oh gosh.
Because everyone interpreted it as him having stalking photos of the baby.
No,
It was at this
what?
point that another man kicked Dan as hard as he could in the ribs. At this time, Jen came out of the store and she thought he was being robbed by these people. She was yelling for security, panicking, and when she saw that her baby was being held by a woman, she was relieved. Jen thought maybe her daughter was moved out of harm's way whilst her husband was being robbed. She couldn't find a security guard outside the store, and so she ran up to the people holding her husband down, waving her wallet, pleading, "Take everything you want, just leave us alone." The man said, "Lady, we need to wait for the police to deal with him." Jen was confused as to why muggers have called the police. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" And made out someone saying, "He tried to abduct that woman's kid. Her husband would never hurt a child." She kept trying to understand what the man was saying, and suddenly, it all clicked. She looked around for the woman who had her baby, and she was halfway across the parking lot.
Just leg it.
Jen went ballistic and sprinted across right to her. All she could think to do was to grab the woman by her hair and squeeze her throat with her other arm. She yanked her hair as hard as she could, and that was enough to make her drop the carrier. She was so scared and surprised, she threw herself on top, and when she looked up, the woman left. Not one person tried to stop her, and within the next couple minutes, police had arrived. There were still several bystanders who explained it as her husband trying to kidnap the baby. The police's first questions when asking for her description weren't investigative. They were questions thinly veiled, trying to convince Jen not to pursue charges, still placing blame on her husband.
Wait, so the police are still not listening? Like, if someone's sort of saying like, "Oh, but that's my baby," kind of thing, then they'd be sort of like looking about, wouldn't they? They'd be looking sort of more at phones or maybe wallets. Maybe they had a picture of the baby. Surely, like, that would be like, I understand it can't necessarily be like that, but and they have to take witness statements from everybody, but if they're not listening to everybody, that's when I'm a bit like, oh, so everyone's just assumed a situation. It's so funny how that can happen so easily. You see something and it's only part of the picture, and you're so sure that that is the right decision and that is exactly what happened, but maybe you missed something.
Do your husband and the baby look dissimilar? Is there a chance she thought he was abducting the baby and she was trying to intervene? Could your husband have been doing something inappropriate or violent to the baby that would make her feel compelled to extricate the baby from the situation?
No.
Did she seem groggy or confused? Could she have mistaken either of them for her own family members? They spent more time verifying that the baby was actually Jen's instead of focusing on the kidnapper. Her husband had called his brother at that point, who works in an office with a lot of lawyers, and connected with one ASAP. And they gave him the priceless advice to get every officer's name and badge number, to request copies of the store's security tapes right away, and to escalate the complaint higher up the chain if these officers weren't taking them seriously. Finally, Jen and Dan had enough reason to believe they were being taken seriously, and they went home. Dan was seething with rage and grappling with a feeling of helplessness from how little he was able to do, and has 2 cracked ribs from when the man kicked him. There were still people who stuck around to talk to the police, who were giving the husband dirty looks, and one man even implored the police to involve CPS to verify that it was really their baby.
Wow.
So to the parking lot kidnapper and the parking lot skeptics, they better hope that Jen and Dan never sees them again.
Oh my gosh. Okay, to the officer's credit, They did ask if he'd like to press charges. After weighing the pros and cons of the situation, the couple got in touch with the police and decided to move ahead with pressing charges against the two men involved in anything beyond basic restraint to set an example that these men made the wrong decisions even if they did come from a well-intentioned place. Oh my god. What am I watching here? Wow, okay, I'm really invested in these type of stories. I know I've already said that, but I'm re-saying it again because I love kind of creepy stuff. I have done, like said, stuff on my channel that's more horror based, and this is like right up my alley. So for people that were suggesting this person, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I do read the comments. I know they get bombarded a lot, but I do my best to reply here and there and read the comments section. If you guys want to see more of this, go ahead and let me know in the comments and like this video so that I know that you'll want to see more. And thank you so much for supporting this channel so far with everything as well. It's just crazy, guys, and I appreciate you supporting all of my non-gacha stuff as well, because I know that gacha is what's grown my channel, but I really appreciate when you watch the other stuff too. I hope you're all doing really well, and obviously don't forget to check out this person in the description. I've linked the original in there, so just go check them out, okay? Go check out the person that made all of this. But like I said, hopefully everything's going all right on your end, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!